On Sunday afternoon, I stare at the scratches on my parents' kitchen table, tracing my finger along a particularly deep groove I remember making when I was 12. The wood feels warm and familiar beneath my touch, worn smooth by years of family dinners, homework sessions, and uncomfortable conversations, just like this one. $25,000. All of it. Mom's voice slices through the room. She sits directly across from me, her back rigid against the chair, her eyes fixed on my face with an intensity that makes my stomach clench. Barbara stands behind her, arms folded across her chest, wearing what I've come to recognize as her concerned big sister expression, the one she practices in mirrors when she thinks no one is looking. Dad stares at his folded hands, his wedding ring glinting dully in the afternoon light filtering through the kitchen window. He won't look at me. He hasn't since I walked through the door 30 minutes ago for what they called a family meeting. My heart pounds against my ribs as the realization hits me. This isn't a meeting, it's an ambush. It's a family venture, Mom continues, her voice taking on that rehearsed enthusiasm she uses when she's trying to sell something. A real opportunity that could change everything for all of us. Barbara nods, right on cue. We've been planning this for months, Aspen, and we thought, wouldn't it be nice to finally include my little sister? She smiles, showing too many teeth. You're always saying you want to be more involved in family decisions. I swallow hard, trying to process what they're asking. The money they're referring to took me 5 years of double shifts and careful budgeting to save. 5 years of saying no to vacations, new clothes, even dinner with coworkers. So I provide all the money, I say slowly. And you, handle everything else? Mom waves her hand dismissively. We have the connections, the business experience. You've always been better with, well, following directions. She laughs lightly, as if she's paid me a compliment. And I would get a percentage, Barbara jumps in. Obviously smaller than ours since we're doing all the work, but still. The unspoken threat hangs heavy in the air between us. After everything we've done for you, I feel the weight of their expectations pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. But underneath, something else stirs, something that wasn't there a month ago. A month ago. Before Aunt Margaret's unexpected visit. I remember standing in my tiny apartment kitchen, washing dishes while Aunt Margaret dried them. Her voice dropped to a whisper, even though we were alone. There's something you need to know about why your mother calls you the mistake. The memory of her words burns in my chest. How Mom had been preparing for her big career break when she found out she was pregnant with me. How she blamed her subsequent business failures on having to rush back to work. How I became the living embodiment of her resentment. Your whole life, Aunt Margaret had said, drying a plate with slow, careful movements. She's been making you pay for something that was never your fault. I return to the present moment, aware that my unusual silence has created a new tension in the room. Normally, I would be nodding, agreeing, promising to help however I could. But today, I simply sit, neither agreeing nor refusing. When would you need the money? I ask quietly. Mom and Barbara exchange glances, a quick flash of victory passing between them. They think they have me. They always have before. In 3 weeks, Mom says, reaching for her phone. I can give you the account information right now. Only Dad seems to notice something has changed. He glances up briefly, his eyes meeting mine for the first time since I arrived. I see a flicker of something. Sadness? Recognition? Whatever it is, it vanishes as quickly as it appeared, as he returns to studying his hands. I nod slowly, buying time. I'll need to check my accounts, I say, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. Make sure everything is accessible. Again. Barbara smiles triumphantly at Mom. See? I told you she'd understand. Family first, right, Aspen? Family first. How many times have they used those words to empty my bank account, to consume my weekends, to justify every sacrifice they've demanded? But as I sit at this familiar table, feeling the weight of their expectations, I realize something has shifted inside me. The money they want represents more than just dollars. It's my freedom. My future. The life I've been too afraid to claim. And for the first time, I'm not sure I'm willing to give it up. 2 days later, on Tuesday at my apartment, the memory of my 18th birthday resurfaces as I sit at my kitchen table, staring at the checkbook balanced precariously on my knee. My phone screen glows with Mom's latest text. Don't forget your contribution this month. Rent's due Friday. Instead of a birthday cake that day, Mom had slid a handwritten invoice across our kitchen table. Now that you're an adult, she'd said, her lips curving into what passed for a smile. It's time you contributed to the household expenses. Dad had examined his coffee mug while Barbara smirked from behind her textbook. I'd stared at the number $250, nearly half my part-time paycheck from the grocery store. When I asked if this meant I could skip my weekend shifts helping at Mom's failing boutique, her eyes had hardened. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been financially ruined in the first place. 10 years later, that contribution has grown to $350 monthly, not counting the emergencies that seem to arise whenever my bank account shows signs of health. My apartment keys jangle against the worn laminate of my kitchen table. The place is tiny, a converted garage I share with a nursing student I barely see. The commute to work takes an hour each way, but the rent is cheap enough that I can save a little each month, even after Mom's payments. I open my journal, the pages soft from handling. 10 years of entries chronicle the same pattern: excitement when my paycheck arrives, calculations of how much I can squirrel away, and then the inevitable call or text from Mom demanding money for some crisis. March 4th, first raise at work, an extra $175 a month. Maybe I can finally save for a decent car. March 7th, Mom called. Barbara needs dental work. There goes my car fund. August 15th, 5 years of saving, $25,000 hidden away. Nobody knows but me. The last entry makes my chest tighten with both pride and fear. 5 years of double shifts at the administrative job I was lucky to land after community college. 5 years of weekend work at Rosie's Diner, serving breakfast to truckers and local families. 5 years of saying, I can't afford it, to coworkers' invitations, of calculating the cost of every grocery item, of patching clothes instead of replacing them. 5 years of careful deception, letting Mom believe I'm barely scraping by. My phone lights up with another text. Barbara this time. Mom says you're being difficult about the monthly contribution. After everything they've done for you? I set the phone down without answering. Barbara learned early to align herself with Mom. The golden child was named for our grandmother, while I was carelessly named after the Colorado town where Mom went into premature labor during a business trip. We couldn't think of anything else. Mom had explained when I asked about my name as a child. We were too stressed with the medical bills. The unspoken addition, the medical bills you caused. The phone buzzes again. Dad this time, a rare text. Your mother's upset. Can you just send the money? I close my eyes, remembering the countless times Dad has witnessed Mom's financial demands without intervening. His weakness is its own form of cruelty. Aspen, you home? My neighbor Ryan's voice carries through the thin door, followed by a gentle knock. I tuck the journal away before opening the door. Ryan stands there with a plate of cookies, steam still rising from them. Made too many, he says with a shrug that doesn't quite hide his concern. He's noticed the shadows under my eyes, the extra shifts. Thanks. I take the plate, struck again by the strangeness of genuine kindness with no strings attached. Ryan's family calls him every Sunday, but just to check in, not to demand money or favors. I've overheard his warm conversations through our shared wall, so different from the tense negotiations that constitute my family communications. You okay? He asks, lingering in the doorway. You look tired. Before I can answer, my phone rings. It's Diane from the office, the older woman who trained me when I first started, and now treats me with a maternal concern that still feels foreign. I should take this, I tell Ryan. He nods and leaves with a small wave. Aspen? It's Diane. Her voice carries its usual warmth. I noticed you've been working through lunch again. I hope you are okay. You don't look okay at all. Something catches in my throat. These small kindnesses, Ryan's cookies, Diane's concern, highlight the stark difference between how my family treats me and how the rest of the world does. I think about the $25,000 sitting in my savings account. The money represents more than just dollars. It's 5 years of sacrifice, yes, but also 5 years of hope. Hope for something more than this endless cycle of obligation and guilt. Mom's latest demand for the entire amount isn't just about money, it's about control. About keeping me tethered to the role of family scapegoat. My journal lies on the table, filled with years of entries that document my gradual erosion. But the most recent page remains blank, waiting for a new chapter. For the first time, I consider writing something different. Next day, on Wednesday, I slip my time-off request across Diane's desk, holding my breath. My supervisor glances up from her computer, reading glasses perched on the end of her nose. A personal day? You haven't taken one in. She taps at her keyboard, eyebrows rising. 2 years? Good heavens, Aspen. I know. I fidget with my cardigan sleeve. Is it okay? I wouldn't ask if. Take 2. Diane signs the form with a flourish. Doctor's appointment? Something like that, I murmured, not quite meeting her eyes. Whatever it is, I hope it brings you some peace. She hands back the approved form, her expression softening. You look like you could use it. Peace. What a foreign concept. Later that day, I sat in the public library, 3 towns over, hunched over a borrowed computer. No family members would think to look for me here. The fluorescent lights hum overhead as I methodically research apartments in Bellingham, a city nearly 1,500 miles and 3 states away from everything I've ever known. Something unfamiliar flutters in my chest as I scroll through listings. Hope, maybe, or terror disguised as excitement. I write down the contact information for 3 properties within my budget. The realization that I can afford my own place, a real place, not the cramped room I share with 2 other women, still feels like a revelation. 5 years of double shifts and saying no to every small luxury has built a nest egg my family would devour in an instant if I let them. Not this time. The following day, on Thursday, I slipped into Riverdale Credit Union, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap borrowed from Ryan, my neighbor. Inside, a young banker named Tess helps me open an account with my ID and a cashier's check for half my savings. No family member as a joint owner. No shared access. Just mine. Your signature looks different here than on your ID. Tess comments, sliding the paperwork back. I'm working on that, I say, and realize I mean it in more ways than one. That weekend, while Mom drags Dad and Barbara to Aunt Joanne's baby shower, I use my emergency key to enter their house. I still did not send them money for rent. The familiar scent of Mom's gardenia candles wraps around me like an accusation as I slip upstairs to the attic. My throat tightens when I spot the faded blue bin labeled Aspen Documents in Dad's careful handwriting. Inside lies the paper trail of my existence: birth certificate, social security card, vaccination records, high school diploma. I'd asked for these dozens of times over the years. They're safer here, Mom always insisted. You'd just lose them. I clutch the folder to my chest, surprised by how light it feels, the entire official record of my 28 years on Earth, weighing less than a sandwich. That evening, I sat on a park bench with a spiral notebook, watching ducks glide across the pond. The sun warms my face as I begin a list titled, Things I Have Survived. My pen moves steadily across the page. Mom's coldness, Barbara's cruelty, Dad's silence. The constant draining of my bank account. The subtle reminders that I wasn't wanted. The not-so-subtle reminders that I owed them for the inconvenience of my existence. When I reach the bottom of the page, I stare at the final item. Being called a mistake my entire life. I tear out the page and fold it carefully into my wallet. Whatever happens next, I've already endured the worst they could do to me. The thought settles in my chest like a stone, solid and strangely comforting. I am not a mistake, I whisper to the ducks. One of them quacks back, and I find myself smiling, actually smiling for what feels like the first time in years. Sunday dinner arrives with its usual parade of passive-aggressive comments and loaded silences. I take my customary seat at the kitchen table, the same table where they ambushed me with their demand for my savings. Mom serves pot roast, her specialty, saved for when she wants something. So, she says, slicing the meat with surgical precision, have you made a decision about our family venture? I take a small bite, chewing slowly. I'm still considering it. Barbara snorts. What's there to consider? It's a no-brainer. I'd like to see the business plan, I say, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounds. The market analysis, projected returns, that sort of thing. Mom's knife clatters against her plate. We don't need all that paperwork. This is family, not some corporate deal. Actually, Barbara interjects, leaning forward, we were thinking we could simplify things. We could become signatories on your accounts, just to help manage everything more efficiently. Dad clears his throat. Maybe we should give Aspen time to think about it. She's had plenty of time, Mom snaps. The opportunity won't wait forever. I set down my fork. What exactly is this opportunity? Specifically. The silence that follows confirms what I already knew. There is no business plan, no investment opportunity, just another attempt to drain my resources. We're still finalizing details. Barbara finally says, her voice tight. I see. I take another bite, feeling something new rising within me. Not anger exactly, something calmer, steadier. The knowledge that I'm already gone. The next day, on Monday, Diane calls me into her office. My heart sinks. Certain someone has discovered my plans. I have good news, she says instead, sliding a folder across her desk. That branch transfer you inquired about? Bellingham has an opening starting next month. I put in a recommendation. I stare at her, speechless. Don't look so shocked, she says, smiling. You're one of our best. They'd be lucky to have you. Thank you, I managed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll send a postcard, and that you'll stop letting people take advantage of your good nature. That evening, Ryan helps me sort through my meager possessions in our shared apartment. I can drive your stuff up when you're ready, he offers, folding a sweater with surprising care. My band has a gig in Portland that weekend anyway. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I know, he grins, but friends help friends escape toxic situations. Friends. The word feels unfamiliar but welcome. In my bedroom, I carefully select a few mementos worth taking. Grandma Cox's thimble collection, the watercolor I painted in high school that won 3rd place at the county fair, and the snow globe Dad brought me from his one business trip to Chicago. Everything else, the accumulated clutter of a life spent trying to be invisible, I sort into bags for donation. On my laptop, I sign the lease agreement for a tiny but sun-filled studio apartment in Bellingham, effective immediately. The landlord seemed confused when I offered 3 months' rent in advance, but I need the security of knowing it's mine, waiting for me. That same night, I purchased a one-way plane ticket for the day of my family's business meeting. As I click, confirm, Aunt Margaret calls. Are you sure about this? She asks, her voice crackling over the line. I've never been more sure of anything. I won't tell them where you've gone, she promises, but they'll figure it out eventually. By then, I'll be strong enough to handle it. I hang up and open my closet, where a small gift bag sits prepared. Inside lies a silk scarf burgundy, not navy blue that I bought with my first paycheck, along with a sealed letter explaining everything I've never had the courage to say. Some goodbyes are better left on paper. A week later, on Saturday night, I arrived at my parents' house with a small gift bag dangling from my fingertips. The silk scarf inside cost 3 days' worth of lunch money, but some things are worth the sacrifice. My heart hammers against my ribs as I step onto the familiar porch. Behind this door waits the family that shaped me, or rather, misshapen me into the person I've been for 28 years. The person I'm leaving behind tonight. Barbara opens the door before I can knock, her eyes narrowing at the gift bag. What's that? She asks, blocking the entrance. Just a little something, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. Can I come in? She studies me for a moment too long, like she's trying to decode something in my expression. Whatever she sees must not alarm her because she steps aside with a shrug. Mom's in one of her moods, she whispers as I pass. In the dining room, Mom fusses with the tablecloth while Dad silently places silverware beside each plate. The normalcy of the scene almost breaks my resolve. Almost. There she is, Mom says without looking up. You're late. Traffic, I lie, though I've been sitting in my car around the corner for 20 minutes, practicing my breathing. Dinner crawls by in painful small talk. Mrs. Peterson's hip replacement, the weather forecast, Barbara's new promotion. I nod and smile at all the right moments, while my gift bag sits beside my chair, waiting. Well, Mom says finally, pushing her plate away with an impatient sigh. Let's get to business matters, shall we? Dad collects the dishes with the mechanical movements of a man who checked out of this family dynamic years ago. Only his trembling hands betray any emotion. Mom produces a folder from beneath her chair and slides several papers across the table. We've decided the simplest approach is for you to sign these, she says, tapping a pen against the documents. Power of attorney. That way we can handle all the financial details without bothering you. Helping a little sister who isn't good with money, Barbara adds with a practiced smile. You've always been better with following instructions than making decisions. I stare at the paperwork. My name appears throughout the document, but every benefit, every protection runs toward them. Family takes care of family. Mom continues, her voice hardening. After everything we've done for you, everything we've sacrificed because of you, this is the least you can do. Dad returns from the kitchen, his eyes downcast as he takes his seat. The silence stretches between us, thick with expectation. You're right, I say finally, reaching for the gift bag beside my chair. I've thought about everything you've said. Mom and Barbara exchange triumphant glances. Dad's shoulders slump further. And I've decided, I continue, placing the bag in the center of the table, to give you something more valuable than money. Mom blinks, confused. What are you talking about? Open it, I say softly. With impatient fingers, Mom pulls out the elegant burgundy scarf, her favorite color, and then the sealed envelope beneath it. Her name is written across the front in my neatest handwriting. What is this? She demands. But her voice has lost its authority. My goodbye, I answered simply, rising from my chair. I know the truth now. About why you call me the mistake. About the business deal you missed. About everything. Barbara's mouth falls open. Aunt Margaret, she hisses. That interfering. I forgive you, I continue, the words flowing easier than I expected. And I'm leaving. Tonight. There's nothing more to discuss. I turn toward the door, feeling strangely weightless. Behind me, the sound of tearing paper as Mom opens the envelope. You can't just... Barbara starts. I already have. I interrupt, not turning back. My things are gone. My apartment is empty. My new job starts next week. Dad's chair scrapes against the floor. When I glance back, his eyes meet mine directly for the first time in years. Be safe, he whispers. Outside, the cool evening air fills my lungs. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzes in my pocket. Mom calling already. It will ring again, and again. For days, probably. Barbara's texts will come next. Mom's having a breakdown. How could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you. I drove away from the only home I've known, watching it shrink in my rearview mirror until it disappears completely. At the airport, I check in for my flight, then power off my old phone for the last time. Tomorrow, I'll turn on my new one. Tomorrow I'll wake up in my own place, in a city where nobody knows me as anyone's mistake. But tonight, I board a plane simply as Aspen. Not a daughter, not a sister, not a mistake. Just me. 2 days after I left, my mother and sister visited my old apartment. Lisa pounds on the door of my apartment, her knuckles turning white with each strike. Behind her, Barbara paces the narrow hallway, phone pressed to her ear. Aspen Marie Cox, open this door right now. The landlord stands a few feet back, arms folded across his chest. Ladies, I told you. She moved out 3 days ago. Paid her final month and left the keys. Barbara ends her call, frustration tightening her features. Her phone's still going straight to voicemail. What do you mean she moved? Lisa spins toward the landlord. This is her apartment. Where would she go? He shrugs. Not my business where tenants go. But she seemed happy. Happier than I'd seen her in the 2 years she lived here. Lisa pushes past him into the now empty apartment. The faded beige walls bear rectangular patches where my few pictures once hung. The closet stands open, empty hangers dangling like forgotten promises. Her stuff is gone, Barbara says, stating the obvious as she always has. Lisa storms to the kitchen, yanking open drawers. Her bank statements. She always kept them in the kitchen drawer. The landlord clears his throat. I need to lock up now. The new tenant arrives tomorrow. This is a family emergency, Lisa snaps. Your emergency. He takes back his key. Not mine. In the parking lot, Barbara frantically taps at her phone. The bank won't give me any information. Says I'm not authorized on her accounts. Lisa's face darkens with an anger I've seen countless times. But for once, I'm not there to absorb it. She couldn't have gotten far, not with her salary. Call her work. Later that evening, Barbara's voice trembles on the other end of my mother's speakerphone. She transferred to another branch. In Montana. They wouldn't tell me anything else because I'm not listed as her emergency contact. Montana? Lisa's voice rises to that pitch that always made me flinch. Who does she know in Montana? No one, my father says quietly. It's the first thing he's contributed to their frantic search. That's probably why she chose it. That. 3 states away, I wake to sunlight streaming through blinds I chose myself. My new apartment is small, a studio with a kitchenette and bathroom, barely big enough to turn around in, but every inch belongs to me. I roll onto my side, watching dawn paint the mountain peaks visible through my window. This view costs me an extra $70 a month. But each morning, it reminds me why I'm here. I chose this. I chose me. My phone buzzes with a calendar alert. First day. The familiar flutter of anxiety rises in my stomach, but it's different now, anticipation rather than dread. The local branch office looks almost identical to my old one, but I walk through the door with my shoulders back, my steps sure. You must be Aspen. A woman with silver-streaked hair says, extending her hand. Diane called me about you, said you're one of the best she's worked with. Thank you for the opportunity, I reply, my voice steady in a way it never was during family dinners. At lunch, I walk to the coffee shop across the street. The barista smiles, asking if I want my usual before realizing I'm new. I order a vanilla latte without mentally calculating if I can afford it, without hearing my mother's voice listing all the things that money could have bought for the family instead. I take my first sip, the warmth spreading through my chest, and realize this is what freedom tastes like. 3 months pass in a blur of new routines and quiet evenings that belong only to me. Then my work phone rings with an unfamiliar number. Aspen Cox speaking. A beat of silence, then, Aspen? My mother's voice, thinner than I remember. Thank God. We've been trying to reach you for months. My hand tightens around the receiver. How did you get this number? That doesn't matter. Her tone shifts, filling with the tremulous urgency I know so well. Your father's not well. His heart. The doctors say he needs surgery, and the insurance won't cover it all. We need you to come home. The old guilt rises like bile in my throat, but something new rises with it clarity. I'm sorry to hear about Dad, I say, meaning it. But I can't come home. Can't or won't. Her voice hardens. After everything we've done for you. I end the call, my hand shaking but resolute. That night, I opened my email to find a message from Barbara with the subject line, Family Obligations. Inside, veiled threats about legal remedies and filial responsibility laws meant to frighten me back into compliance. My phone rings Aunt Margaret's number. They're planning to visit, she says without preamble. Lisa found your address through that friend of yours from the diner. They're talking about driving out next weekend. Cold washes over me, but I don't panic. Instead, I make a list. Wednesday morning finds me sitting across from Patricia Wells, a lawyer with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. They have no legal claim to your money, she confirms after hearing my story. A cease and desist letter should be sufficient, but we can pursue a restraining order if needed. That afternoon, I met with HR. I need to document a potential harassment situation, I explain, laying out the facts without emotion. My family may attempt to contact me here. The HR manager nods, making notes. We take employee safety seriously. I'll alert security and make sure your direct line is changed. That evening, I called Aunt Margaret. I love you, I tell her. But I need you to understand something. I'm not hiding. I'm standing my ground. If they come here, they'll be met with legal consequences. Silence stretches between us before she says, You sound different. I am different. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived containing my mother's handwriting. Inside, I find a tear-stained letter full of accusations and pleas. At the bottom, in handwriting I've never seen such defeat. I don't know who you are anymore. I fold the letter carefully and place it in a box labeled Before. Then I open my window to the mountain air and breathe deeply. She's right. She doesn't know who I am anymore. Neither did I, until now. I wake to golden light filtering through curtains I chose myself. The soft cotton sheets purchased without calculating if I could afford them wrap around me like a promise kept. My apartment isn't large, but every corner reflects a choice I made. The watercolor painting of mountains above my reading chair, the collection of succulents thriving on my windowsill, the bookshelf filled with volumes I no longer have to hide. 1 year, the calendar on my wall confirms what my heart already knows. 1 year since I walked away from everything familiar into this life that finally feels like mine. My phone buzzes with birthday messages. Not the obligatory acknowledgments from family who resented my existence, but genuine wishes from people who simply enjoy my company. Diane from work, Ryan, who helped me move. The friends from my pottery class who plan to take me to dinner tonight. Looking forward to celebrating you, texts Marissa, my closest friend in this new city. No hidden agenda. No subtle dig about what I could contribute to the celebration. Just pure, uncomplicated affection. I shower and dress for work. choosing a burgundy blouse that would have been deemed too attention-seeking in my previous life. My reflection shows a woman who stands straight, whose eyes meet her own gaze without flinching. At the office, a small envelope waits on my desk. "Congratulations on your promotion," says the card inside, signed by the entire department. "Your attention to detail and initiative have been invaluable." My eyes burn with unexpected tears, not just for the salary increase that will further secure my independence, but for the recognition of value that has nothing to do with what I can give away. That evening, surrounded by friends at a small restaurant, I blew out candles on a cake nobody expected me to pay for. Later, alone in my apartment, I open my journal and write, "Today I turned 29. My savings account topped $10,000, money that's truly mine. I sleep through the night now." The nightmares about debt collectors and family emergencies have mostly stopped. Dr. Andrews says healing isn't linear, but I can feel the difference. I'm learning that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary. Every Thursday, I sit across from Dr. Andrews in her calm office, untangling the knots of my childhood. Sometimes I leave drained, sometimes lighter, always clearer. "You can acknowledge the hurt without continuing to live from it," she told me last week. "Your mother named you after a place she was passing through, but you've turned that name into something with roots and strength." On Saturdays, I volunteer at a community garden. My hands in the soil connect me to something larger than myself, something growing and alive, like me. Last month, I accepted a dinner invitation from Michael, an accountant I met through the garden. Our conversation flowed without the familiar undercurrent of fear. When he asked about my family, I told him the truth, not everything, but enough. He didn't run, he just listened. The mail brings sporadic reminders of my past. Mother's Christmas card arrived without a note, just her name signed with a flourish. Barbara sends occasional texts about family dramas, fishing for responses I no longer feel compelled to provide. Dad's letters come monthly, tentative bridges I cross with careful steps. I answer with brief, kind notes that maintain distance without cruelty. Yesterday brought something unexpected, a letter from my 19-year-old cousin Jessie. "Aunt Lisa says you abandoned the family," she wrote. "But something about how they talk about you doesn't sound right. I'm working 2 jobs while going to school, and Mom keeps saying I owe her for raising me. I don't know what to do." My hands trembled as I dialed her number. For an hour, I listened to her story so familiar it could have been my own. "You're not crazy," I told her. "And you're not alone." Later, looking at the framed quote on my wall, some call it a mistake. I call it my beginning. I realized something profound. The mistake of my existence had become someone else's lifeline. This morning, on my birthday, I stood at my window watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of promise. 2 years ago, I couldn't imagine this life. Now, I can't imagine returning to that one. I touch the frame holding my favorite quote and speak the truth I've finally embraced. "The family you're born into may shape your start, but the family you choose determines your future."